I bought Destiny 2 not nearly as excited as I was for the first one. Actually, I wasn't excited at all. I was just too burned out from the last one to grow any type of hype for this game. But yet they still got the money out of my pocket, so they must be doing something right. As you first start the game, you're met with these slides that show your Destiny history, showing you the date and the people you did the raids and certain strikes with, reminding you of the good times from the first one. That's good with huge quotations. These slides worked perfectly there because they not only reminded you of the times where you finally beat Atheon or Crota for the first time, but also brought the emotions you felt during those events to surface, making you feel sympathy for the game, and blinding you from any early flaws that the game has, which the game had a lot of. If it wasn't for those slides being brilliantly placed there, or the memories that they brought, I wouldn't have felt nearly as devastated when Gaul first takes your light away, and I wouldn't have felt nearly as excited or motivated to keep playing when you first get it back from the shard.
Eyes out, Guardian.
I honestly enjoyed the first run through. I mean, I loved killing the Cabal, and you can climb stuff now, that's new, and killing more Cabal, and cinematics, and killing more Cabal, and the speakers saying kill yourself, and killing even more Cabal, and K6, and killing more Cabal. This lasted up until around 265, where finding loot will not help you level up anymore and you have to rely off of the weekly milestones, which you get about 5 of them a week, and I usually finish these on the first day. So I created a new character to try to get ahead. As I was in the character creation menu, I noticed nothing new. It was actually the same exact one from the first one. Like, really, Bungie, you had 3 years? I mean, I wasn't expecting some type of Fallout 4 character creation menu, but they could have at least added some type of hairstyles or face paints. Instead of seeing your Destiny history, as your new character does not have any history of the first game, I was met with this cutscene.
It was a golden age, and for centuries, humanity thrived. Until it didn't.
Destiny 2's storyline took me about 5 hours to complete, which is completely normal for a campaign to last that long. But I swear the reason why it took that long wasn't because there was just straight 5 hours of pure campaign. I mean, there's not a lot of missions in it at all. The storyline is just, you lose your light, you find Mean Girl that sells uncommon armor at the end of the game for some reason, you gain your light back, you find Titan, you find Cade 6, you find Warlock, you stop Gaul from blowing up the sun, and then you kill Gaul. Like, that's it. The reason why it took that fucking long was because of missions like this. And a lot of time I'd find myself running from place to place with long periods of just running, with no enemies to shoot at or no sparrow to ride. There would also be this annoying level cap for different planets and locations. So let's say you finish the story mode so far after Titan, and you are now level 5. But you have to continue it on Nessus, which is level 7 to go there. This really just takes you out of the moment as you're forced to go play Strikes or Crucible so you can get to that level. Only Destiny would find a way of ruining their one decent thing about their game. And there are lots of other flaws I found throughout the storyline which either were highly annoying to me or was just fucking stupid. Like how we lose our light, taking away our powers and giving us the chance of actually dying, as our ghost can't revive us. This creates drama as you're forced to be careful with every enemy you fight, and I thought this was a really good idea. It's like playing Minecraft at hardcore mode. Of course, this is a video game, so we get our light and powers back from a shard of the Traveler fairly soon, like actually in the second mission. But everyone else is still risking their life as they don't have their light. Is there a reason why they can't walk to the shard and get it? I mean, it's not that far away. You can actually see it over there. I told this to my friend and he said that there's probably only enough light for you, which would make sense if they brought that up in one of their mini cutscenes, even though we go there 2 more times to get our other 2 subclasses. In the first Destiny, you start off on Earth, which is mostly invaded by Fallen. As you get to the Moon, you see mostly Hive. Venus, there were Vex, and Mars had mostly Cabal. And later there was Taken and Siva. Meeting new gross looking enemies really changed up the gameplay as every race had to be approached differently. Even the sad excuses of new races still changed the way you play. And it's just nice when they give you something new to shoot at. In Destiny 2 there is nothing like that. There are no new enemies to shoot at. Now it's all just Cabal. I mean, they didn't even add the Siva race from the last game. All they did with that entire race was hint at it with a scannable object. And no, the cutscenes with the pyramids at the end of the storyline don't count as a new race as they're not in the fucking game. This is DLC, or Destiny 3 content. It's the same thing with the Guardians. We use the same 3 classes as the first game: Titan, Hunter, and Warlock, which all maneuver and feel the same, with the differences being very minor. Like, the biggest difference are really the supers, and even those aren't that different from each other. They could have added a new class, or at least went more in depth with these classes. Yes, they added a skill tree, but it's the saddest skill tree ever. Look at actually any other skill tree from any other game. Then look at this one. I believe they should completely change each class to match the way they are portrayed. Like for Titans, they would be a heavy tank class, having more health, holding more ammo, and being able to drop shields for their team. Hunters will move faster, jump higher, and deal bonus damage for sneak attacks, also being able to drop ammo for your team. And Warlocks will be able to poison and stun enemies, revive teammates faster, and be able to self-heal plus heal your team. Close to what Overwatch does with their heroes. Each character played a certain way. This would completely change the game for the better in my opinion, PvE and PvP. But nope, we're stuck with the same shitty classes and the same shitty enemies. But hey, at least you can shoot at old reused enemies with any weapon of your choosing. Except you can't. You're constantly forced to change your weapons to be at a higher power level, so you can actually function in PvE. This means say goodbye to that power level 200 assault rifle you've been melting any enemy that stands in your way with, and say hello to your power 201 pulse rifle. Using guns you don't want to use not only takes away from the gameplay, but also ruins the entire experience. It's the same thing with armor too, so if you find some cool ass looking armor, which is fucking rare in Destiny 2, as everything looks like shit, you can kiss those goodbye, as no matter what you do, you're gonna always end up looking like a fucking clown. Especially now that the shaders don't work like how they used to, so when you use a shader on an armor piece, it's stuck there, and the only way to get rid of it is by putting a different shader on. Deleting the shader you had on recently. This caused me to just collect all my shaders and just never use them, and just embrace the fact that I look like trash. Speaking of trash, back to Destiny 2's storyline.
Tell me, Speaker, what more does the Traveler want of me?
Gaul, I speak for the Traveler. I never said it spoke to me.
Wait a second, did the speaker just say something interesting? After 3 long years, he finally says something interesting. This is a perfect opportunity to twist the storyline and everyone's thoughts on this character, and actually give the speaker a backstory, and answer some of the many questions that I have. Oh, okay. First of all, this scene fucking sucked. There was no point in killing off the speaker because nobody knew anything about the speaker, so nobody fucking cared. They didn't give the speaker a backstory, a personality, any type of depth of any kind. They just killed him off camera and said, "Yup, good job team." He was actually known as a boring guy who talked too much during unskippable cutscene in the first one, so why would anybody be affected by his death? If the people at Bungie really wanted to affect someone, then they should have killed off Cade 6 or Zavala. Oh shit.
You are weak, undisciplined, cowering behind walls. I command legions, conquered worlds, waged war across the galaxy to prove my worth. I alone am worthy of the Traveler's light. You're not brave. You've merely forgotten the fear of death. Allow me to reacquaint you.
Gaul is the worst antagonist in the Destiny universe. Well, second to worst. I did not like Gaul whatsoever. To when you first meet him at the beginning of the storyline, to when you finally fight him at the end. He looked ridiculous, his actions made no sense, and I just didn't like how he was portrayed as our biggest threat yet. This was not our biggest threat. This was. At the beginning of the storyline, Gaul calls you a creature, putting you below him. Even though he took the time out of his life to learn the English language, then he speaks it throughout the rest of the campaign, which I thought was really fucking weird. I'm sure they could have gotten his point across without him actually speaking, like they did with Oryx, or actually any other boss from the first game. But just seeing him speak reminds me of those awkward Halo 2 cutscenes where the Covenant spoke English. That shit scared me as a kid, and I can't imagine how kids today feel when they see this thing on their screen speaking English. Yes, Gaul was ugly. But the reason why I don't like how he looks isn't because he's hard to look at, but because he simply doesn't look as threatening as he should. I mean, he looks like a fucking marshmallow. I'm sure they could have made some minor tweaks to make him look more like a threat. Like if they gave him a black shader and had him wear a gas mask or something to cover his face, giving him some mystery. Or if they busted up his armor, because they talk a lot about how Gaul has never lost a war before. So it would be cool if he looked like he's been through a lot of battles. It's just hard to believe that out of everyone we fought in the past, this is the guy who gets the closest to defeating us. Gaul's whole plan was to take the light away from the Guardians and use the light for himself as a weapon, which is actually really smart and well thought out. And I thought that was strange, because in the first Destiny, Cabal was looked at as these big crazy aliens that would destroy anything that gets in their way, kinda like Vikings or Protesters. They even said that they would blow up moons just for being in their way, to show that they really just do and not think, and to show how savage the Cabal can be. And they totally proved that in the storyline, like holy shit. But you would think Gaul would try to destroy the Traveler instead of studying it and using its light as a weapon. But here they are speaking English and making ships that actually eat planets. Except something else I didn't understand is that they also tried to blow up the sun, which would destroy everything in the galaxy, including Gaul and the Traveler, as they are both in the galaxy. What? Was this a suicide mission? Or would him and the Traveler disappear like the Almighty did? You could say I'm nitpicking at this point, but honestly this is a pretty huge hole in the storyline. And finally, the final battle, where you fight Gaul as he's powered up with light and he uses supers like Guardians do in the boss fight. Which sounds pretty cool when you hear it, but here, I'll just show you gameplay.
Fitting your Traveler would send you to face me once more. Look upon me. Dominus of the Red Legion. Annihilator of suns. Raiser of 1,000 worlds. Slayer of gods and conqueror of the light. I am Gaul! And I have become legend.
When you defeat Gaul, he turns into this angel that actually looks pretty threatening. I mean, this has the potential to be a raid boss, and that's what I thought it was at first. And I was excited to fight this thing. But nope, it soonly dies when the Traveler decides to wake up for 1 second to kill him, I guess. Damn, this game really doesn't want us to have fun. After that confusing cutscene, you're met with this unsatisfying ending scene, where you see everyone together being all proud and heroic, and your character comes walking in all like, yep, just beat the easiest boss, like, ever. With the speaker spewing his unexplained garbage in the background, like that, as if that's supposed to mean something. This didn't feel like an ending, as I had so many questions to ask, like if the speaker is really dead, or why the fuck the Traveler woke up for 1 second to wipe out the oatmeal version of Gaul, and why it didn't do that to any other boss we fought in the past. But whatever. They could have had just a black screen in between these cutscenes with Zavala's voice at least acknowledging the speaker's death, because it feels like the people in the game don't care any more than we do about his death. That's really all it would take to make this ending far more satisfying. But no. Instead, we get this shit ending and this after credits scene that somehow makes you ask even more questions, leaving you off even more than you originally would. Maybe Destiny is brilliant and they purposely had this lazy ending with no answers so they can answer them in DLC. I honestly don't know. And at this point, I honestly don't fucking care. That's the end of the storyline, but sadly, it's not the end of the game. In Destiny, on each planet there would be a variety of missions that'll lead to a strike, being like a boss fight. You would then be able to play them in a playlist for engrams and leveling up in Vanguard. In Destiny 2, you don't fight any of the bosses from the story mode. You just fight random bosses they made purely for strikes. And I hate all of them. Like, do you remember in the first Destiny that ogre boss on the moon? And the holy shit feeling you got when you first encountered him? As it was the first time you've seen anything like that in Destiny. In Destiny 2, they're all just normal, everyday things you fight, but stretched out in Microsoft Paint. Like, this boss is a hobgoblin, but a little bit bigger. And this boss is a shrieker, but a little bit bigger. And this guy is annoying as fuck. Like how you'd fight him and pop your super, and he would just disappear, wasting your super and your time. To the person who made this strike, fuck you. But it's not just him that does that, it's actually all the bosses. I mean, you can shoot this guy all you want, and he won't disappear or hide or put up a shield. He'll just stand there and take it, making him more menacing and less like a big bitch like all of these bosses. It seems like Destiny doesn't really know the difference between what is challenging and what is just annoying. When I first started strikes, I played the same strike 3 times in a row, and I wondered if there was more of them. Which there are, but not as many as you'd think. They should add the boss fights from the storyline to the playlist just so there's more of a variety to play. So there's less of a chance of you getting stuck playing the same one over and over again. Moving to the Nightfall is a weekly occurrence and the most popular way to get some of the best loot in Destiny. But it's also very challenging, especially with that timer shit. And a lot of people can't even do it, as they don't have a fire team or any friends to play this game with. Like, my father plays this game a lot, and he's never experienced stuff like beating the Nightfall or beating the raid, as he doesn't know anybody else who plays this game. And yeah, this game's trying to slowly import ways to help you, like they have that whole clan system that's kind of ass. But what we really need is just a random lobby that you can join with other people who are also alone, so you guys can work together and beat the Nightfall. And they do have that, but it doesn't fucking work. As it's in beta, because that's their excuse of saying, we didn't finish this part of the game, so we're just gonna say it's in beta and it's not gonna fucking work. And they also have this timer thing that I was talking about earlier. We have only a certain amount of time to finish an intense strike. This encourages you to just run by swarms of enemies that you actually want to fight, but due to the lack of time you just can't. So in my opinion, they should just completely get rid of that and just stick with the burns. Or if they kept the timer, and instead of the Nightfall completely ending when the timer ends, the Nightfall would continue and you'd still be able to finish it, but you wouldn't get as good as loot as you would have gotten if you would have beaten the time. Because there is nothing more heartbreaking than being at the end of the boss fight and watching the time run out. Oh wait, yeah there is. It's called buying this game. This time I'm going to change it up a bit. I'm going to start off with the positives instead of just attacking it. In the Crucible, the gunplay feels a whole lot better in my opinion. And the weapon balance feels a lot more fair compared to the first one. As long as you don't look in that direction. I enjoy how they reduced the players so it's a 4v4 instead of a 6v6. This makes it feel way less cluttered, and the maps are the perfect size for that. Plus they're beautiful. And there's not really a map where I'm just like, oh shit, not this fucking shitty ass map. Oh wait, now that I'm done with the positives, I fucking hate the Crucible. First of all, they got rid of Rumble. I honestly don't know why they would get rid of one of their most popular game modes from the last game. It feels like they were just too lazy to set the spawns or something. And it's extremely annoying how quick play is a playlist of different game modes. I mean, there should be multiple playlists, like if you want to play Team Deathmatch, then click there. If you want to play Domination, then click here. You know, kindergarten stuff. They just shoved all their game modes, which is not even a lot, into one playlist. I'm just tired of playing that shitty version of Kill Confirmed, because no one picks up the fucking engrams or whatever they are. They obviously did this because they knew there would be game modes nobody wants to play. So they just crammed them all together to make everyone play them. And now there's competitive for some sad reason. The Trials of the Nine should be the game's competitive, not this shit. It feels like they're trying so hard to make competitive Crucible a thing. I honestly feel like they should stay away from competitive and add more fun game modes, like Capture the Flag or something. I remember getting pissed in Halo Reach and cooling off with a nice refreshing game of Infected. Infected would be a cool ass game mode in Destiny. Like they could call it Taken, and one person spawns in completely taken with the sword and has to infect the others. That actually sounds really fun, and something I would enjoy playing more than competitive. Competitive number 2, slightly less competitive, and a bunch of mainstream trash game modes that people for some reason take more serious than the other 3 game modes. They also made it so all shotguns, snipers, and fusion rifles are now heavy weapons. Because they are one-shot kills, which sounded stupid when I first heard about it. But after you shoot that shotgun slug and kill your enemy with one shot, it really does feel like a heavy weapon. But sometimes you can shoot one person 3 times and they'll still be alive. I believe they should make some shotguns and some snipers not heavy as they don't one-shot, and I miss using them as a secondary in PvE. They also made it so instead of heavy ammo coming in a box and everyone on your team gets it, it now comes in a small container and only one person on your team can get it at a time. I guess they didn't want everyone running around with rocket launchers at the same time, and yeah, that was annoying, but nothing is more annoying than watching your teammate steal the heavy ammo from you and then just die in seconds, losing it all. I understand what they were trying to fix by doing this, but in my opinion, it would have been better having it so every player sees their own heavy ammo and they all spawn at different times in the match. This will make it so you're not fighting your teammates over the heavy ammo and everybody will get their share of it eventually. But in the end, none of this heavy ammo stuff matters because once you have this, you're set. And what about play of the games? Like, I thought every game was supposed to have those by now. Come on, Destiny. What year is this? Huh? What year is this? Patrol, unlike the first game, actually felt like it had a purpose. A boring purpose. No, but there's actually some stuff you can do now, like the rate of public events were increased, so instead of waiting 10 to 20 minutes for one, they're constantly happening in this one. Too bad they forgot to make them fun. They also give way better loot, public events being the most efficient way to grind for exotics to my knowledge. There is also adventures, which were like these small unique missions that gives you some shit loot, and world quests, which sometimes led to an exotic weapon, which I actually really enjoyed. Like, getting every exotic should be like that. All of these would give you tokens that are different for every location. You can then turn them into one of these vendors that would give you some pretty good loot when you turn enough in. This was an amazing idea that actually was a really great way of leveling up, but then is ruined once you get to level 265 and all the loot you get doesn't help your power level anymore, and it just ruins the whole motive for doing all of this. Collecting tokens are the vendors' like only purpose. That and selling uncommon shit for some sad reason. So after 265 I really just stopped going to the vendors and stopped doing patrol whatsoever. Here's a picture that was made by a player of what the vendors should look like. Not only do I completely agree with this, but I am fascinated that the entire Bungie team didn't think about this. Like, they just gave them uncommon weapons and armor and was like, this is good, this will last in the rest of the game. I really like the idea of an exclusive EDZ ship or any type of planet exclusive items. Like if they had planet exclusive armor that didn't look like complete shit, like the EDZ armor could look like a ghillie suit, and the IO armor can be made out of those dragon bones you see all over the planet. This would cause other players to go to different locations to grind, because honestly, I only go to Nessus, and rarely go to any other planet, as there's no reason to. Why would I go to any other planet when it's easier to grind for the same loot on Nessus? Like, I haven't been on IO since the storyline, and I can't even remember the last time I went to the farm. Oh, I almost forgot about these, but there are now these new treasure maps that you can buy from Cade 6 in the tower that are actually pretty expensive, and they'll lead to these chests that you can find around in Patrol. This is actually a really nice idea. They can give you really good loot to no loot at all, which is fucking stupid. I don't know if that's supposed to happen, but it's just disappointing paying this much and getting actually nothing.
Sorry if there's been lack of content, guys. I've been playing Destiny 2 all day, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
The raid is absolute raid mechanic hell. Take the worst sections from all the good raids and mash them all together. Bathhouse is just the totems but longer. Pleasure Gardens is just Gorgon's Maze meets Death Zambani in the worst way possible. And Gauntlet is just King Fall's Daughters, where you would have to jump on platforms in a much more confusing order. The boss is okay and had some pretty interesting lore at the end. And I also did like how it wasn't like Oryx, where no matter how good you are at the raid, it would always take the same amount of time to defeat Oryx, making you feel like you're not progressing as a player. Where in this one, people beat Callus faster than I can nut. This raid would have been so much better if they replaced all the raid mechanics with other bosses, so you have to defeat those bosses in any order you want before getting to the big man himself. It would have also gave off this Prison of Elders feel, but with more freedom. By the way, Prison of Elders would be so fun in Destiny 2. Too bad it will never be a thing, says anti-fun Destiny developer number 37. There's also this place under the raid, which was kind of like the ventilation for it, or the sewer system. I don't really know, but it was like these tunnels, and it was so massive, you can get lost in it. It was fun to explore, and every single raid mechanic was linked with this sewer system, and I thought that was really unique.
Come here. Exactly, nothing. You don't have anything to say. You don't have anything to say. You don't have anything to say. What? Why? Why?
Your mom.
Anyway, this was a horrible way to start off Destiny 2's raids. It is worse than any other raids and is just absolutely boring. Just like the rest of the game.
What the fuck is going on?
Alright! Can we fucking get this part done, Cameron?
Hold on, John.
Alright, fine! I'm right here! By John! I step on the plate, then I run over, go to the middle, switch, and then I go to fucking Zarcy! Then I stop, switch back with John's face, then I go back to John's place, and the end!
Freaking
So
Cameron!
bad! Shut up! Right! Just right! Just get up!
I'm not trying to just shit on this game. There are some positive things about Destiny 2, like how beautiful it is. The music is amazing. They actually have a storyline and left some lore and objects that you can find, which I thought was pretty unique. And the cinematics still was a major upgrade from the first one. But sadly, this game needed more than that. It needed a lot more. I know this video is mostly negative and it will probably attract mostly negative attention. No, honestly, this video isn't going to attract any attention. But I just want what's best for this game. That's why I kept giving it constructive criticism throughout the video. Like I'd say, this would be better if they added this. And this would be fun if they added this. I truly did love Destiny, and watching it turn more and more into a grinding simulator money hole with every DLC just burned me out. To the point where I don't want to play this game anymore. To the point where this game feels like a job you have to pay for. And Destiny 2 gave me that feeling as soon as I started the game. I guess this is the part where I give the game an epic IGN rating, just in time too, definitely not 4 months late. This game took a lot of steps forward from the first game, and a lot of steps backwards. But where it's standing now deserves a big ol' 2 out of 5.